love, love. So for established businesses, right? The challenge is developing in the book I'm going to quote the book. They say developing an appetite for new models.
Yes.
So hard to do take an established business that has a culture, a way of doing things, and then encouraging them to take the effort and risk of developing a new business model, or even taking the time and looking at their current business model and see what it actually means, and if there is or a lack there is or isn't a presence or lack thereof.
Mhm.
The next challenge is aligning old and new models, right? So
Mhm.
even if they don't understand their model, they obviously have one. Now,
Mhm.
they may not understand the value chain, they may not have it broken down into a way that's digestible. And the whole business model concept here is that it's easy to digest and to share, right?
Mhm.
And once you have it defined, visual and digestible, it's then easy to go and evolve it. But you have to get this buy-in between the new and the old process.
Yes.
And
Yep.
managing vested interest, there is risk when things change. There's
Mhm.
people have built-in emotions, people
Yep.
have capital that they've put things in, they've made stands, and they risk losing capital that they put into
Yeah.
hard work and looking foolish
Yeah.
if they end up taking a new path and they fought for a path, or two, if it doesn't go well. It's the culture in corporate or established companies is more aligned with protecting the norm than it
Mhm.
is in risking growth. And this
Mhm.
is sometimes why you have to take out you have to run with two simultaneous business models. One is the established, and
Mhm.
one is a microcosm of a business model that's based off the internal resources with new teams, so that they
Mhm.
can get though and be brave and expand without the old culture holding them back, thus
Mhm.
proving themselves and winning favor with the establishment. And
Mhm.
sometimes you still even have to take that and pull it outside of the company because it's successful, but it doesn't apply to the culture or the way the market wants to see it, but it's still productive and economical. You just have to, it belongs outside the company after you mess with it. It's a hard thing to predict ahead of time. Some
Mhm.
people are good at that though. And then just focusing on the long term, which doesn't mean that you're getting buy-in because it's an investment, but
Mhm.
you have a long-term uh, comfort with uncertainty
Mhm.
and continuous evaluation of the market, benefits, weaknesses, and
Mhm.
seeing how that's going to apply going forward, knowing that
Mhm.
you're going to be wrong about most of the guesses that you make and being able to
Yeah.
swing with that.
Yeah.
Good luck bringing that concept into an established organization. It's worth it though, and it can
It's
keep your company from dying.
well, and it's kind of interesting too because you're going to be wrong. So everybody's going to be wrong, especially at the very beginning of this process and everything. Like you
And
could.
that's my favorite part about this actually, is that, no, I go into these call discussions, right? And I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna say a lot of things that are wrong. They're gonna be so far wrong that you're gonna want to throw your book at me.
Hmm. Hmm.
And sometimes I'm gonna say things that are so wrong, it's gonna make you laugh, and other times gonna make you cry.
But
And it's just be creative and have fun with it, guys.
yeah, yeah. But and here's the thing. Like you need to be wrong. That's how you're going to learn and how you're going to explore things and how you're going to grow this business model and learn and understand what's like where within this business model it's going to help you and build you up. So let me give you an example of where of being wrong within a business within planning a business model and such. So my parents are trying to work on opening up a fiber mill, taking wool and processing it and turning it into yarn so that it's usable and everything. What do you think the product is? What do you think the value proposition is for that fiber mill?
It's maximizing resources, utilizing growth in the market, and enabling, creating resources that would otherwise be unavailable to the farmer.
Yeah. Yeah. Most people wouldn't think of it that way though. Most would be like, oh, they would be on the opposite side of that and be like, oh, our value proposition is that making yarn. Okay.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
that's where, so like when I first started doing that and started thinking about that business model, I was sitting there thinking about that and trying to understand, okay, well, what is it? What would it be? Well, I think it's going to be this. But then I actually really sat down and I thought about it. I was like, you know what? No, because what ends up happening with a lot of fiber mills is it's not that they process the wool and the yarn and try and go back and sell the yarn themselves. It's that they give that yarn back to the farmer, and the farmer is then goes and does all of that selling and getting rid of the yarn themselves.
Hmm.
So really, what we've done is that we've increased the value of the farmer's product, of the
Hmm.
farmer's um, labor. Essentially, we've increased that value. That is the value proposition for a fiber mill. So it's kind of one of those things where, like, yeah, you need to be wrong, and you need to be able to be wrong, and you need to be able to admit when you are wrong, so that you can actually really truly understand what your business is doing and
Hmm.
how it's helping the market and what it's going to, like, what it's adding to everybody.
I like to look at it this way, and it's hard to do when you're young, like yourself,
Oh, that's a good. Hey,
right? I like to look at
I'm not
it.
that young.
I was teasing, dear.
I know.
The
We're such an old married
Yeah, we
couple.
are old. We're like two old farts. Um, I like to look at like I'm a tribal man. I'm a tribal leader in Iran, Pakistan, Africa, Tennessee, right?
Tennessee.
You know the Southern boys. So
I'm
I'm
offended.
teasing. I love my Tennessee whiskey.
Uh
What
huh.
is the value to my family, my community, my customers, those who I'm responsible for, and how does this tie in to my neighbors?
Hmm.
Right. So when I'm looking at it like this, the value that a mill produces is way more significant than just enhancing what a farmer can do in
Hmm.
the present. You're not just maximizing the resources he has, you're
Hmm.
enabling him to free up his time and effort and expertise and focus
Hmm.
on doing more of what he does best on whatever that is.
Yep.
And
Yep.
thus you're going to grow your community by
Hmm.
providing utilization and production that wasn't there before. And
Yep.
this just ripples out in a massive way. And I'm
Yep.
super excited about this whole mill concept that your family's doing because you are creating economy in a real way that's going to have massive ripple effects for the community. I can't wait to see how big you guys get in 10 years.
10 years. Give it two. Like every mill that we talk to, they darn it. Every mill that we talk to, they become overwhelmed with stuff in a very short amount of time.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm
it's
curious to see some, especially somebody like you. Like why would the guy with the sheep get it sheared, take it back and sell it in a microwave? Why don't you create that marketplace where people know it's coming in?
mhm.
You they know roughly that this disbursement is done. You can create a marketplace for people to buy that. They don't even have to take it back. That you can just say, hey, here's the market price we're getting right now. Is that acceptable to you? I have an order ready for you.
Yeah, exactly. Hold on.
Which brings us into marketplaces, multi-sided marketplaces, which is another design strategy that we
Yeah,
skipped over.
we did, and I mean, skipped over that because it is not a lot of people are gonna, like, when you're sorting out your business, or you're sorting out going,
It's
you
an
know.
accident to do. A lot
Yes,
of
exactly.
people that hear about it want to jump into it, and you should
Yep.
first test and define your business model first to see if it makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yep.
You can lose a lot of money when you try to jump right into a marketplace before you really have. create your place. Try to create your place first and then marketplace later.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. That's exactly it. Okay, so
So
where are we
go
with the
into the 5
process?
phases.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah,
Okay,
jumping ahead.
I
All right.
like it.
So I love it. It's super simple, right? We're looking at the initial phase of mobilization, and this is where we prepare for successful business model design project. You're just setting things up, right? You're basically getting the coffee, the donuts, finding who to invite, and this is a lot of groundwork. I have messed up here before, where when I've mobilized things, I've mobilized the wrong people
Oh
that
yeah.
were bringing in negative energy to our project, and then ended up being more problematic than I had expected. It's something you have to manage, so don't overlook it, right? Next is understand, and this is where you do your discovery, your research, looking at all the methods. This is still a lot of stuff that should be done. There's a lot of there's a lot of overlap between mobilize and understand, because you
Yeah.
want to prepare a lot of information to get ready for your initial calls to and meetings together, right?
Yep.
You want to make sure that those first meetings amazingly productive, especially the smaller and earlier you are in the startup process. And if it's a small company, it's hard to see that if they're not business minded.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
right after that, design, the fun stuff. We are going to get into designs process later,
Yep.
but we jumped over that. But just think that it's a whole stage design. I like design because here's my thoughts, right? And I've always struggled with it. I never liked design as a child. I found it hard, and I was not
Mm.
good at making pretty things. Right? So, and I knew it, right? So I didn't like
Mhm.
design, but I did like business. And I always considered myself a bit of an artist. And I never understood that what's important about design is the critical eye that you have and the ability to discover, to go into play, and to risk being wrong. And that's
Mhm.
what I like about when you attack things as a designer. You're coming at it with curiosity, and without that certainty, certainty will kill a process. And
Yes.
discovery and curiosity and going about it with a design mentality helps create millionaires.
Yeah.
Implement is the fourth stage. And then finally, it's just manage. And by just manage, I mean do everything again and again and again until you bleed and become successful and rich.
So I would, I agree with what you're saying. I would say from that, the word manage is a bad choice in their case. I think what a better word would have been iterate. So because
Evolution, iteration. Yep.
yep, yep.
Yep. They
Because
give
man,
it a focus of evolution. And if they
yeah,
call it, it's, you know, evolve.
adapt, modify, yeah. Which because the problem I have with the word manage is very much a what is a job of a manager? A manager's job is to get things done, to maintain the status quo, not
I'm with you. They
necessarily.
go from design and implement all the way into manage, and manage sounds like a funeral.
Yes, like there. Don't get me wrong. There is a place for managing the business model within this,
Yep.
but then on top of that, there needs to be a place for iterating, for evolving, for
Mhm.
assessment of the business model.
Yeah,
And
and there is a time when a business model sets into manage, right?
yeah,
The definition here. There's a time when a business sets into manage, and it has to focus on production, routine, consistency, and
yes,
um, certainty, right?
yep,
And I tell my partners that this is the stage that I don't get involved in.
yeah, yeah, I
When
understand
it's
that.
finally when you have a well-defined product, that's time for me to take my exit. Once it's
Yeah,
done, you're not involved in it anymore. When you need you'll know when you if you don't build in continuous evolution,
hmm
and this continuous evolution is going to make you spit off new business models and new
hmm
products and new systems, but you don't throw away the baby with the bathwater. You manage the hell out of the death of a life cycle of a product that makes sense,
yep,
right?
yep,
You milk that, right? Now it doesn't mean that you don't whatever. Sometimes you do, you know, say, "Hey, it's time to cook that chicken," right? But the there's people with different talents. I don't have, unfortunately, this is my weakness. I don't have the talent to sit there and deal with something that's not in a growth phase. But I do know people that are really
Mm.
amazing at that, and these people are God's gift to entrepreneurs.
Here's the thing. Along those lines, I'll sit there and I'll tell people this: recognize where your skill set is, and like, okay, so I'm going to get on a little bit of a soapbox, and I'll try and keep this to just a couple of minutes. Okay, there is an undercurrent in society about, and especially in the business world and especially in the personal development world, where they tell you, or you're told, identify your weaknesses and work on those. Okay, you'll notice that all over the place, and especially within schools and such. And the problem is, so there's nothing wrong with identifying your weaknesses in general. You should identify where you have where you're lacking in something. However, the problem is when you start identifying something that you are just not you, that you are not good at, and then you just focus in on trying to make yourself better at that thing. That is like,
Especially if it's without joy.
yeah, especially if it's something that doesn't really bring you any joy or any happiness, or something that you like, that you look at it and it lights and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I need to do this." It's lighting a fire under me that I
Yeah.
want to do this thing. And I suck at it, but I love doing it.
You know, a tiger, really great at barbecue, never going to be that great at making a wonderful salad.
Yes. So the reason I say all that is, like I said, because society does focus in on saying, you're that tiger, you need to be good at making a salad as well as the barbecue.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the thing is,
No, you don't.
that's 100% incorrect.
Yep.
It's identifying what is it that you're really good at, that you, or not, or as Phil said, like, that really makes you happy and brings you joy
Mhm.
in life, and identifying that gift in and that skill set that is like amazing for you.
This happens a lot in business where you have
Yes.
this one guy that you really like, but
Yep.
you don't quite have the role for him. Right?
Yeah.
You don't have
Yeah.
that proper place for him. He has amazing talents. That's why you hired him. But that role that you hired him for is no longer there, or you've iterated him out of that position because somebody
Yep.
else is better at it. But you still love
Yep.
that guy or girl, and you're having them doing stuff that they aren't good at. It's not
Yeah.
in their nature.
Yeah.
Let that beautiful person go and to go to a place where they can be utilized based
Yep.
off their talent. Don't try to convert them
Yep.
into something that they are not.
Yep.
Or same thing is I have assistants. I try to give them a lot of work, and
Yep.
sometimes I say, try this task and see if you can do it or if you get joy from it.
Yep.
And sometimes they say, Phil, this gives me anxiety. I can't
Yep.
do this,
Yep.
or I am uncomfortable doing this. Right. And I like this
Yes.
openness
Yeah.
with my all my employees and all my contractors and all my friends and partners, because it's like, okay, cool, find your joy and we'll work within there. It's not for it's a too short of a life to try to
Well,
become really amazing at stuff. It's not for you.
but yeah, exactly. But the part of it too is when you try to focus in on the stuff, on doing the stuff that is not for you, and you really try to do that, you're neglecting the stuff that is for you. So the question becomes, at that point, what would have happened? All right. If you try to sit there and you focus in and try to become really good at the stuff that is not for you, you're there's going to be something holding you back. There's always going to be something like pressuring you there, and it's not going to be quite as good as when you sit there and you focus in on the thing that is for you, that is wonderful for you, because that is where your strengths are, that's where your gifting is, and then like it seriously excels at that type of stuff.